In just under 3 weeks' time, Destiny 2 is receiving its next major update, and alongside it we are getting a full raid and dungeon refresh where every single weapon is being updated with brand new perks and armor set bonuses are being added to the armor. Plus, Pantheon 2.0 is confirmed to be on the horizon, meaning we are entering into a heavily endgame oriented season. And if you're somebody who's thinking about jumping back in and want to know how to be best prepared, today we're going to go over every single meta weapon you should have ready in your arsenal in order to take on the update with ease, covering where exactly you can farm them and what the perfect god rolls are. And if you find today's guide helpful, your like and subscription would be very much appreciated. But without further ado, in no particular order, let's begin. So we're going to start off with all of the weapons you can earn right now, because there are some that I'm going to recommend later that are a little trickier to earn but are still very good to have. However, most of the ones you can earn currently will be more than enough to get you through most content, so don't be too concerned. Getting into it, the first weapon you ought to have is the Psi Eterna 4 Arc Micro Missile Frame Pulse Rifle, because unless you've been living under a rock these past few months, rocket pulses are still hands down the most dominant weapon archetype in PvE. They're excellent for dealing with high health targets and are great for boss damage too, and even if they catch a nerf, they will probably still be quite strong. My god roll recommendation is going to be appended or extended mag so that you can reach the maximum magazine size of 8, which is important for a certain interaction, Blast Distributor, and Elemental Honing. Blast Distributor grants you a whopping plus 65 grenade stat for simply shooting the weapon at a target, and Elemental Honing is one of the highest percentage damage buffs in the game at 35%. And also, if you can manage to get yourself a shiny variant featuring Accelerated Assault, that would be even better, because not only do you deal more damage, this perk works kind of like rewind rounds where it reloads a portion of your magazine after firing enough bullets. And if you manage to get a starting magazine size of 8, you can actually get through your entire reserves without ever having to reload, which is really good. This weapon is part of the solo, fireteam, and arena ops loot pool, so pick any of these to farm at your leisure, especially if it's ever a daily bonus focus. However, the shiny variant only drops when it's the featured weekly weapon for the quick play fireteam and arena ops Vanguard alert playlists. And according to scheduling, the next week this will occur is starting on Tuesday the 26th of May, so mark your calendars and get farming. Next up, we've got the Choir of One Void Exotic Auto Rifle. This weapon takes special ammo and fires high-powered rifle rounds that deal a ton of damage while ADS, or fires a spread of projectiles when hip-fired. It is such a versatile beast, and if you haven't added it to your arsenal yet, then you better get to it. My Choir is just over level 1000, which should tell you just how much I use it, and here is how I've built it. I've gone for Fluted Barrel for the handling, Flared Magwell for the reload speed, Short Action Stock, and the Destabilizing Rounds refit for the catalyst. Though in truth, I tend to alternate it between Onslaught as well, because Onslaught is really good for clearing big groups of ads quickly. Plus, it straight up increases the DPS of the weapon, making it even better. However, Destabilizing Rounds is great for something like a Void Hunter because it allows you to activate Stylish Executioner super consistently. It's ultimately personal preference. Choir of One and all of its upgrades can be found in the Encore Exotic Mission, and if you're looking for a comprehensive video guide, friend of the channel Sax Plays Games has an excellent walkthrough covering everything you could possibly want to know, link in the description box below. Next up is the M17 Fast Talker Stasis Balanced Heat SMG, and the reason you're going to want one of these is because number one, it's actually quite a solid primary weapon, but more importantly, number two, it's by far and away the best SMG for Peacekeeper Titans, featuring the god roll of Ionized Heatsink, Attrition Orbs, Target Lock, and Accelerated Assault if you're lucky. The benefits this weapon has over other good PK SMGs like Antidate or Barrow Dyad is the fact that the magazine is effectively double in size due to it being a heat weapon, and also because it is a heat weapon, it just deals more damage towards bosses than any other archetype by default, around 32%. Plus, it has a really nice flow with Tractor Cannon, where as soon as you start to hear the weapon overheat sound cue, you can swap to reapply Tractor, then once you've swapped back, assuming you're using PKs, the heat meter is reset and you can continue as you were. We've actually posted an entire video on this build here on the channel, so definitely check that out if you're interested. In order to farm this weapon most effectively, you'll want to play Lawless Frontier for a while, and once you've amassed enough credits, spend them at the Fast Talker vendor in Tharsis Outpost, and cross your fingers you get the god roll. Next up, we have the Conspiracy Honed Sniper Rifle. This one is a dynamic heat weapon that drops from the Equilibrium dungeon. A bit of a niche pick, I will admit, but still worth getting in the event snipers get a buff or rocket pulses catch a nerf. This weapon can output pretty competitive DPS that's actually higher than something like Mint Retrograde, but of course with the added limitation of it being a sniper and needing to activate the dynamic heat limiter. However, I still thought it was worth bringing your attention to, to. The god roll features ionized heatsink, vorpal weapon, and bait and switch, and I did cover some damage rotations featuring the weapon in my previous DPS breakdown if you're curious. The best way to farm any of the Equilibrium dungeon weapons is to complete the dungeon's main questline, which unlocks the focusing menu, focus the drop you want, and then farm full clears using 4 feats, because then every drop, including secret chests, drops at tier 5. Moving on, we have yet another heat weapon, that being the Uncivil Discourse Arc Dynamic Heat Special Ammo Hand Cannon. And to put it simply, with the right setup, this weapon is the current top DPS meta right now, with the setup in question being the Lucky Pants exotic boots for hunters, because despite being a special weapon and hitting pretty hard, Uncivil Discourse has no custom scaling with Lucky Pants, meaning it can hit some ludicrous burst damage numbers while the perk is active, especially if you pre-stack the buff with something like Crimson or Warden's Law. The DPS is staggering and is also what you might have seen people soloing the Witness with. To say this weapon is strong would be an understatement, and while it's inevitable it'll be catching some sort of adjustment with Lucky Pants, it's still very much worth getting. The god roll for this weapon is ionized heatsink, the left column doesn't matter, then precision instrument and accelerated assault. And similarly to the fast talker SMG, the best way to farm it is by playing Lawless Frontier and amassing a small fortune of credits, then spending them all at the Uncivil Discourse vendor inside of Tharsis Outpost. Good luck out there. Coming up next, we have a bit of a sleeper pick, and that is actually the Dead Messenger exotic wave-frame grenade launcher. And let me tell you guys, this thing is kinda nuts. The gameplay you're seeing right now is from a quick build I threw together using Mask of Bacchris and some 200 weapon stats, link in the description by the way, and yeah, it's just tearing stuff to pieces. I know waveframes haven't been hot for quite a few years now, but Dead Messenger is seriously putting up a fight, and the reason why is as follows. A while back, during I believe Edge of Fate, Bungie rolled out a change to waveframe weapons in general that allowed multiple people to use them at once, because before, if using say waveframe swords, only one person on the fire team could use them because the waves from other players simply wouldn't register. So that was fixed, but it also had a side effect specifically for Dead Messenger where each of the 3 waves it shot out were overlapping and all doing their own damage instance, effectively tripling the damage of the weapon. And guess what? They decided to leave it in as a feature, so now Dead Messenger is dealing triple the damage it used to, making it actually quite good. I've built mine with quick launch, high velocity rounds, and short action stock, as well as the Demolitionist refit catalyst. So in a world where other energy weapons get some tweaking, Dead Messenger will be right there waiting. And in terms of how to get it, you'll find the base weapon and all of its upgrades inside of the Vox Obscura exotic mission. Next up, we have the Sullen Claw lightweight sword from the Equilibrium dungeon, and this is more just a PSA to make sure you have an eager edge sword for movement. And Sullen Claw is one of the better ones because number 1, it's current and easy to farm, and number 2, lightweight frame swords have a faster initial momentum boost when paired with eager edge compared to every other sword frame. So if your class can't skate, get yourself one of these from Equilibrium. Next, we have one of the big hitters, and that is the Heavy Sniper, aka the refurbished A499 from Renegades. This thing is a staple in the current DPS sandbox, and you should definitely have one ready for the incoming update. As a quick comparison, with just 1 stack of aggregate charge, each shot from the Heavy Sniper deals more damage than a single shot from Sleeper Simulant. And that's not even factoring in Sniper's Meditation, which of course puts it even higher. And in general, the Heavy Sniper is useful in lots of places, particularly ranged bosses like the ones from Desert Perpetual, and it's also seen used against the Witness. This thing hits hard, and even in neutral game I find myself using it to one-shot mages with ease just because I can. And the ammo economy isn't that punishing, with it holding 20 shots total. My personal god roll recommendation would be Flared Magwell, Snapshot Sights, Aggregate Charge, Accelerated Assault, and a Reload Masterwork if you can. The left column perk doesn't really matter, you mainly want Aggregate Charge as the damage perk, then as much reload speed as you can get. And much like the previous Renegades weapons on the list, the best way to farm it is again by playing plenty of Lawless Frontier and then spending your credits at the weapon case, which here is inside the Piker Syndicate headquarters. Yet another exotic mission weapon next, I wholeheartedly recommend you get yourself Wolfsbane. This is the reward for grinding through the Heliostat exotic mission and is a very solid DPS weapon. Close quarters, you can kind of think of it like the solar version of Legend of Acreus, maybe slightly easier to use too, but I do think you should have it because chances are it'll only get more popular as time goes on. The damage is great, especially the Super Gen 2, and here is how I'd build it. Honed Edge, Jagged Edge, Tenacious Handle, and either the Attrition Orbs or Burning Ambition refit. And if you're curious about how to optimize it for damage, I cover exactly that in my recent DPS video. Check it out. Speaking of DPS, if you haven't got yourself Finality's Augur yet, make sure that changes before June. This weapon is still very good for not only damage but neutral utility as well. One of the best things things you can do while using it is to just chuck up turrets way more often, even outside of damage scenarios. That said though, damage is where it truly shines, providing a constant passive damage over time that regenerates your super incredibly fast. There's a lot to love about this weapon, and if you want to know more, I have an entire video breaking down how to use it most efficiently. Of course, Finality's Augur is the dungeon exotic from Sundered Doctrine, so getting it is an RNG chance. However, you can increase the odds of it dropping by completing various triumphs. And the Catalyst is also pretty important because it grants the bait and switch trait, and I know the quest isn't exactly riveting stuff, but I promise it's worth it. Finishing up, I've got a quickfire list of weapons which are technically earnable right now, but their methods of acquisition are less than desirable, basically meaning wait for Zavala to sell them. These being Mint Retrograde, the OG Rocket Pulse that's also still really good, take Rewind Bait or Rewind Honing, or both, the Multimax CCX with Attrition Orbs and Kinetic Tremors, which I believe new players can still buy from Banshee 44 in the tower. However, I'm not 100% sure on this. Return Memory, which is a solar rocket sidearm. I quite like the classic heel clip incandescent, but Redirection is also quite solid. And finally, the Theodolite Micro Missile Frame Grenade Launcher, because it's the only one in the NG slot. Despite these weapons being not exactly the easiest to obtain, you can still get by perfectly fine with the ones you can actually earn and farm that I covered in the last section. And chances are, inside of the June update, we'll be getting a proper way of grinding them, not just waiting for Zavala. At least we can hope. Anyway, that has been my quick guide on every single meta weapon you need in order to take on the June update with force. I hope you enjoyed the guide and could take something from it. But until next time, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hype the video, and perhaps even join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.